Well, the nuclear crowd's always been pretty good at propaganda and very, very poor in performance. I would say I give them an A for propaganda, too cheap to meter, and an F in performance, too expensive to use. There's nothing been a greater failure than nuclear power in America. Listen, the Tennessee Valley Authority had an armada of nukes underway when I got there that was bigger than our Navy. I had, with my own vote, to shut down 8,000 megawatt reactors that were under construction because they were costing too much.
Tomorrow, the Congress is going to take up the case of the Tennessee Valley Authority. It is a government utility. Billions of dollars were spent on constructing nuclear plants. Someone didn't pay any attention to the safety standards. The plants are closed. The taxpayer and the consumer are the big losers.
Well, that's not the point of this meeting. The point is to keep the plant from coming here.
Well, that's a kind of a tough proposition, isn't it? You just can't argue with something like the Atomic Energy Commission.
Why not? The Atomic Energy Commission is part of the government. The government is elected to work for us. Seems to me it's our duty as citizens to speak out when they do something we disagree with.
You think that'd get you anywhere?
I don't know, but I'm still going to argue.
Everyone knows we're waiting for the security queue to clear out a little bit, and then we'll get started. We're here this afternoon to entertain oral limited appearance statements in accordance with Title 10 of the Code of Federal Regulations, Section 2.715A.
This licensing board and the Nuclear Regulatory Commissioners ruled that terrorism and/or acts of malice and insanity do not need to be addressed. This denial is incomprehensible to those of us who live in the shadow of a proposed nuclear waste dump on our coastal bluffs.
It's a mistake to be investing so much money in a technology that must be so secretive.
Well, the current NRC has cut back on public opportunities for involvement. I know that they've cut back on hearing rights and eliminated cross-examination and all sorts of things. Some of this has to do with 9/11, but I think the commission used 9/11 to an extent to just close off access in a lot of other areas where there was no reason to close off access.
Most of people in the country, at least some of us a little older, have seen these Sandia crash test films that they use as propaganda to show the trains and locomotives running into these things. And there's a couple problems there. One is that there was no fuel in any of these things, obviously. Secondly, what they don't tell you on the films is in 3 of the 5 stress tests, the casts actually failed and would have released the radioactive contents if they had them. In fact, the people that were making the films said these cannot be used to demonstrate cast safety. They are merely computer simulations to help us calibrate equipment so that we could measure these in the future. Yet the industry and DOE uses them as the ultimate transportation is safe weapon when the films are phony to begin with.
This same cask and rail car were then positioned over a pool of jet fuel and subjected to an engulfing fire. Surface temperatures exceeded 1400 degrees Fahrenheit, and there was no evidence to indicate that even the combination of the crash and fire would have released excessive amounts of radioactivity into the environment.
Now, DOE has a study out that says if 1% of the material in one transportation cask leaked, it would contaminate up to a 42 square mile area and cost in the neighborhood of billions to clean up. There is a problem here, and the issue really is that if your bathtub here is overflowing, rather than bail it out, you assume that you want to stop the water first, and then you figure out how to bail it out. But no, we're in a country where you got the water going full force, and yet we're using a thimble to try and bail it out. And it really has to do with the lack of foresight and kind of thinking this whole problem through and ahead, and what would be the risks of nuclear energy versus not pursuing it. What are the byproducts? How do we manage those? And clearly this whole process has not been very well thought through. It began as a promotional exercise to rationalize nuclear weapons. It's grown now into its own industry, and even though it's been in place 30 or 40, 50 years, all of those questions still remain, that there still is not a solution to the waste problem.
You know, the idea that there's only one measure of greenness, that there's only one way to measure the benefits of an energy technology, and that's from how much CO2 it emits, and it's only, you know, it's global warming. I mean, clearly global warming is a profound, urgent problem that we need to address right away. But to replace that problem with nuclear waste and nuclear power, I think our friends at the Sierra Club in DC, I think, put it best. It's like trying to kick a cocaine habit by switching over to crack. I mean, it just, the one problem does not replace the other, and it's not in the public interest, it's not wise. And the good news is we don't even have to make that choice. It's a false choice. Again, America is no longer faced with the choice of either fossil fuels or nuclear power. We have way more options at our fingertips. We're falling behind. Other countries are seeing these other options. Germany has outpassed all of the countries in investing in and building solar power. Japan is the world's second largest market for solar power. Both of those two countries have about 5 times the amount of solar of just developing, and we have a long way to go, but the potential's there, and the choice is a false one, that somehow solving global warming is going to require nuclear power.
Well, as part of our strategic plan, we have said we are not going to build another coal plant. The nuclear question is difficult for us to handicap from a risk standpoint. In fact, just a few months ago, we turned down the opportunity to invest in an expansion of our existing plant. You know, we just thought from a fiscal standpoint it's too risky. Conservation, efficiencies, and renewables. Operationally, we're putting solar panels virtually every place we can. We have solar panels here on our new gold LEED certified City Hall. We have solar panels shading the taxi queue at our airport. We have solar panels on top of garages and many of our roofs. Our convention center has probably the city's largest single application. Our private sector has been within installing, you know, solar panels, even in public art structures. So we're doing a lot with what I call this current generation of technology. It allows progressive utilities, to bank on not having to go build another coal or even natural gas-fired generating plant.